Hello and welcome. I'm so pleased to tell you about my guest today. Alan Page is back with me. He and I did an interview we were reminiscing about way back in 2001. So it's been a long time.
It has been a while.
Too long. Today we're going to focus mostly on his foundation, the Page Education Foundation. But I'll also throw some other questions in about life in 2017.
That sounds good.
1988 was a big year for you. This is the year
I was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We started the Page Education Foundation. In fact, we started the foundation, our reason for starting was inspired by my induction into the Hall of Fame.
How was that, Alan? What's the link?
The link is that by 1988, I'd been out of professional football for 6 years.
Right.
And while it was great to be recognized for those past accomplishments, I felt that there had to be more to it than that. And in fact, the day that I found out that I had been elected to the Hall of Fame, we sat down with some friends and talked about how we could make it more meaningful. And out of that meeting came the idea that we would start an education foundation.
So it was very directly connected, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's
I've
interesting.
been involved with education and spending time in schools and talking to children, that sort of thing for, at that time, probably 35, 40 years.
Your whole adult life?
My whole adult life, and some of my not adult life. But that's another story. But having been involved, it seemed like there was more that I could do beyond just simply visiting classrooms. I mean, one person can only be in so many places at once. And so we came up with the idea of the foundation, and we started off with two goals. One, to motivate, encourage, and assist young men and women of color pursue their education beyond high school. And the second piece of it, well, the first piece was financial assistance. Our goal was to pull people along, not filter them out. The second piece was to sort of expand my ability to reach a larger audience. As I mentioned, one person can only be in one place at a time. We came up with the idea that we would have our scholarship recipients, we call them Page Scholars, we would have them do community service with young children, kindergarten through 8th grade, specifically in the area of education.
And that's kind of a unique pairing of two ideas, isn't it? I mean,
it is.
I hear a lot of,
and you know, it's the financial assistance part is important.
right?
But for young people to see somebody who looks like them, comes from their neighborhood, using education as a tool, we think that that's the most important thing that we could do, that it has a dramatic impact on those young people who are benefiting from our scholars' service.
So do the scholars give 50 hours,
50
right?
hours.
Is it 50 hours every year that they get a scholarship?
Every year that they get a scholarship
wasn't
during
sure.
the school year.
Okay, I thought it might just be 50 total.
No, it's
but
50
a year.
50 a year.
And that's why your hours have added up. What did I read? 420,000 hours of
some very large
mentoring?
number.
Yeah, very large
But,
number.
well, over the years, I mean, the first year we started off with 10 Page Scholars.
Oh, I didn't know how many, but now you're up to what,
This year
500?
we have 518.
Oh, that's a huge
And
jump.
over time, there have been more than 6,500 individuals who have been involved. And
that's fabulous.
it's the work that they do that's really key to the success of the foundation. And our goal is to change the future so that our scholars' future and the young children that they serve, that their futures are better than what it might otherwise be.
I remember reading once, Alan, that for a child who's in a vulnerable kind of a home or a setting, just one person caring about them and giving them extra attention can make all the difference in the world.
Make all the difference in the world. And having a mentor reduces the likelihood that young people will get involved with drugs. It reduces the likelihood that they will drop out of school. It reduces the likelihood that they will engage in antisocial behavior, and increases the likelihood that they'll go on to college
This
and
sounds
participate
like
in sports.
Statistically researched too,
Yes,
right? You're not
yes.
just
No, I'm
saying
not-
from observation.
No,
right?
this is,
Yeah,
I don't have the sites,
right.
the sources in front of me,
But
but
real studies.
they're real studies.
The way you
yes.
stated it, I figured they were. But it's almost one of those things that's unbelievably positive, isn't it?
Well,
For the,
it's
the
unbelievably
output.
positive and simple enough to do.
Right, not that hard to do.
Not that hard to do.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that we need to be doing more of.
And so the Page Scholar plugs into one child's life. And how do they match up the scholar with the child?
Our scholars work in, I don't know, I think 300 and some, have worked in some 300 and some odd community service organizations.
Around the state, right?
Around the state.
Just Minnesota.
Just Minnesota. Boys and girls clubs, YMCAs, various and sundry service organizations which work with young children in the area of education.
So you have one Page Scholar per child for the year, and then
It varies by organization. Some work with 2 or 3 children.
okay.
Some work with 1.
Oh,
It just
okay.
depends on.
how it works
the
out best
organization
for the
that they're working in.
organization. And do they keep, if they go to college for 4 or 5 years, do they keep that same child and stick with, or children?
Oftentimes they do, although sometimes they'll change organizations that they do their work in.
Oh, I see, sure.
Or the child moves or what
Sure,
have you.
sure.
But for the most part, they stay with the same organization just because it's simpler for them. All
right.
of these Page
And it would
scholars,
be-
they're full-time students.
Oh, they are full-time students.
They work
Okay.
and they do their service, so they try to.
They're focusing.
They have to focus quite a bit.
Something you and I have talked about in the past, the importance of learning how to focus.
How to figure out what it is you need to get done
At that
at
moment,
that moment,
right?
and
Yeah,
do it.
that's a huge attribute or gift to be able to hone and
It is.
use in life, isn't it?
It is, because if you have 5 things to do
Right.
and you aren't focused on how you're going to get them done in an orderly fashion, it can be overwhelming.
You
Because
say, I can't start anything.
I can't start
right?
anything,
Yeah.
and nothing gets done.
Right. Put
But
it
if
off
you-
and procrastinate.
Exactly. But if you focus on, the task of the moment, perform that task, and then move on to the next one, it's surprising how quickly you can accomplish whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
When you and I talked in our earlier interview, we talked some about how, as a professional football player, you went to law school.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, and I was so puzzled, how in the world could you do that? But you explained focus was part of it. And then you said, too, the benefit of having the law school kind of make football even more interesting
Well,
because it was not your only.
Made it easier. I have a very low boredom quotient.
Do you?
And
In other words, you like stimulation.
yes.
Another
And
way to put it.
that's another way to put it. And by the time I started law school, I'd been playing professional football for almost 10 years. And, 8 years of high school and college before that. And so it was important for me to have some different stimulation. And law school provided that. And it made it so that I could continue to do the football.
And you went to law school here, didn't you?
At the University of Minnesota.
Right. Which is one of the best law schools in the country, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
I interviewed a professor from there. I'm blanking on his name right now. He's no longer alive, but he had this wonderful quote that I bet you remember: "Never whisper justice." Do you remember the professor who might have said that?
No, I hadn't heard that, but
oh, isn't it?
It's absolutely true.
Yeah, I've got to think of his name. Maybe while we're talking, it'll come to me. But yeah, it was such a great quote, and they hung it in the lobby of the school for some years, I know.
Well, with attribution, I'm going to start using it.
Yes, and I'll get you the author's name. Education was something your mother and father really made you want to pursue.
They made it clear to me that if I was going to have a better life than they had, then I had to be educated, and that I had to be a good citizen. They understood that education is a tool that will allow almost anyone to overcome the hurdles and obstacles that get placed in front of them. And everybody has those hurdles and obstacles.
Everybody does at some point.
But if you're prepared, and if you learn how to think critically, you can deal with those obstacles and those hurdles.
Now, your mother worked as an attendant at a country club. Your dad had a bar and had a jukebox business,
yes.
Right? So how much education had they been able to get?
High school.
Okay, they did get high school, though.
They did get a high school education, but they never had the opportunity to go beyond that.
So when they talked to you about education, were they talking, Alan, college?
Absolutely.
It wasn't just get through high school.
No, it was.
Okay, keep going, right?
It was get through high school and do it well, and then go on to get additional education beyond high school.
That is probably the best gift you could have received from them, wasn't it, in a way?
It was an important gift. The other thing that they instilled in me, and I didn't pay a whole lot of attention when they were saying it, but it stuck. They would say, whatever you want to do when you grow up, be the best at it that you can be.
Without saying, go for this or go for that career.
In fact, I can hear them saying it now. If you want to be a garbage collector, be the best garbage collector you can be. If you want to be a doctor, be the best doctor you can be. What they were talking about, and I don't know that they thought about it in this context, was seeking excellence. Being good at what you do so that you can fulfill your highest potential.
And another gift, isn't that the wisest thought too?
That is a real gift. We don't talk to young people enough. We talk to them about doing well enough so that they get good grades and all of that. And good grades are important. But doing as well as you can so you can achieve your fullest potential. Those good grades that you get may not show your full potential.
Right.
And so...
so you took that to heart on the football field, at law school, as a associate justice.
Indeed, everything I do.
Your mother died when you were 14, so
Yes.
was she giving you this good advice? I mean, it
Absolutely.
wasn't just your dad telling
No,
you
it
this.
was. It was.
So she started
it was
early and
It was instilled
instilling.
in myself and my siblings from birth.
Okay.
I mean, these are things that I heard from the time I have memories
Wow.
through, her passing and beyond.
You have such strong values and believe in them so strongly. Is there a way that you've built into the foundation with your work with the kids that you get to pass on some of your core values like fairness and doing your best, etc.?
We talk about those things.
You
we,
do,
We
okay.
have every year we have a recognition ceremony for new scholars. And we have we call it a seminar now every summer. It used to be an orientation. And at those events, we talk about those values.
You get to. Okay, I bet you love
Well,
infusing them with those ideals.
it's for me, it's being able to talk about the things that I've seen that allow one to be successful. And
You're sharing some of the
sharing
secrets
those-
of life, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
That would be an important thing, I think, in terms of your getting out of the foundation some personal gratification beyond seeing them succeed.
Well, it's really very interesting. I'm able to sit back and watch what our scholars do, and that gives me a great deal of joy. One of the things we as human beings, we do things thinking we're going to end up with one result. And, with the foundation, it was, we'll populate schools and classrooms with young scholars who can influence others. But getting to know those scholars as they grow up and move beyond their college days, watching them grow and develop, are benefits that I never would have anticipated.
So you have all these children out there, don't you?
In a sense, yes.
Yeah, that's exciting. The funding, I'm sure, is something you have to work at all the time. You're not personally funding it, or not the
Not
entirety?
totally. We have to raise roughly $1.3 million on an annual basis.
On an annual basis.
And
Well, that's a big goal.
It's a huge goal. We've managed to do it so far. We've been very fortunate. We've had a lot of good supporters,
From
both
both
individual,
corporations and
individual. I think we're about 60%, roughly 60% individual, and 40% foundations and corporations.
and you're a nonprofit,
And we are
obviously.
a nonprofit.
So that's important. But that is I didn't realize that was an annual goal. That's a big
Yes,
big challenge.
it is a major challenge.
So are you spending a lot of time soliciting from your friends and
I spend some time at it. The real hero of our fundraising effort is Diane.
is she doing
She
the bulk of
is
it?
the one who...
Diane is Alan's wife,
my wife.
Diane Sims.
She is the one who, for the last 25 years, since I joined the court, has been the one who has had to carry the burden on fundraising, and she's done just a phenomenal job.
How wonderful that she has that skill, because it's not easy.
It is not easy.
I mean, it takes a certain kind of person, doesn't it?
Yes.
I know some fundraisers well, and it's not easy to ask for money, even if the cause is dear to one's heart.
Well, it's not easy, and you get a lot of rejection.
You do,
It's-
more
and it's not
rejections
easy to-
than yeses, don't
And
you?
it's not easy to take that kind of rejection.
Although one person once said, I'd rather have a definite no than a maybe, because then I can move on.
Move on.
You know,
Absolutely.
so people shouldn't be afraid of being honest, I guess. The logo or the subtitle of the foundation, it's not quite the right word, Alan, but it's creating heroes through education and service. And that kind of says it all, doesn't it?
It does. And for me, we've had, more than 6,500 heroes
That's
whose
just
work I believe, has in fact changed the future.
Well, it's bound to have, that many people who have had inspiration and a sense of being supported. I mean, what more do we want, really,
And the benefit of serving others.
And that's been one of your values throughout your career, hasn't it?
Our scholars benefit, the people, the children they serve benefit, our communities benefit, the state benefits.
It's a win-win-win,
for
isn't
everybody.
it? More
Everybody
than
wins.
most projects. Well, I want to mention there is an anniversary celebration coming up on September 9th.
September 9th at the U.S. Bank Stadium.
We all know where that is, and so keep your eyes open for that. This show is being taped in May of 2017, so we'll get more word out about the celebration when we get closer. But
Appreciate that.
we've just got a few minutes left. I want to ask you, if you're up for it, just a few questions about our world right now and our country. James Clapper, former National Intelligence Director, said, our institutions, the three branches of government, are under assault. Your comment on this?
Well, I don't think will speak to the executive or the legislative branches of government, but clearly our judiciary has been under assault from the other branches.
Right.
That, I think, is short-sighted. Our democracy works because we have an independent and an impartial judiciary. And the more the judiciary is put under the kind of pressure that they've been under from the other branches.
And criticism that's so undeserved and
undeserved, but
shallow.
Unwarranted.
Right. Very
unwarranted and almost casual, as though it doesn't matter.
Right.
As though there are not consequences from...
For demeaning one of the three
right.
branches.
Right.
Yeah, that's what's maybe the most shocking part of it.
That is troubling.
It's okay to criticize, but to do it in, as you say, a casual way is so surprising. Do the justices here in Minnesota that you've worked with, do you get together and talk? Are you in touch with each other so there's some chance to hear what they're thinking?
I haven't talked with any of my former colleagues much since I left the court. The work that you do as a justice is so all-consuming.
Intense, yeah.
That it's difficult to sit down and chat about it.
People are
even when we're
spread thin.
When I was on the court, we didn't spend a lot of time talking about the political, because our role is to give our best advice and not
And
our
not
best,
be political, right?
not be political
Yeah.
or give our best political advice.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
There's sort of no reason to sit around and have those conversations.
And you probably know what they're thinking. We're getting the signal that we're out of time. I want to have you give the website for the Page Education Foundation, though.
Our web address is www.page-ed.org.
We will put that up in graphics, and do go to it, because I did a lot of reading from your website and learned a lot of the details that are fascinating, and some of your other interviews, and it's a really nice website. Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. The time has gone by so quick we didn't even get to talk about Alan and his perfectly pointy and possibly perpendicular pinky.
But quickly, it's a children's book.
Yes.
It's available through Amazon and bookstores all over.
On the website is the best place to get it.
I love the way you rolled that off. Say it one more time for me.
Alan and his perfectly pointy and possibly perpendicular pinky. And if you want to see Alan's perfectly pointy,
can we? Yeah, they're getting a close-up. That was a great title for your book, and that, of course, happened during the Viking days or
Yes.
Bear days?
Viking days, early on.
So a battle scar, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming back, and it's wonderful to get to sit and think and talk and learn from you. So
Thank you for having me.
you're welcome. Thank you for being with us. I'll be back again next week. I wish I could bring him along, but I'll see you then. Have a good week.